Good afternoon. I am Dr. Shanta Smith. I walk, talk, breathe, dream speech education. Literally, I've been an educator for over 28 years.
Hi, my name is Melanie Powell Robinson. I work with Revision Connections, which is an organization that teaches and works with communications in an equity field.
Hi, I'm Annette Hayes. I am currently an assistant principal in the Ladue School District. Prior to that, I've been an academic instructional coach in the St. Louis Public Schools District, and I've also been an English teacher, all at the high school level.
Hello, my name is Carla Leggett, and I am an elementary school principal. This is going into my 21st year in education. I have served as a teacher, a lead teacher, and assistant principal, and this is my 12th year as a principal. And so, as we are here to have a discussion, I kind of want to just start this out with how I made this trek into education. Coming out of high school, my mother told me that I was going to be a teacher. I wanted to be an engineer, but my mother knew what my calling was, even though I was not aware. And so I became a teacher. And when I got into the role, the one thing that I wanted to be was that teacher that I felt that I needed as I was navigating through education. I got my foundation in the District 189 in East St. Louis, and it provided me with a very solid foundation that made me love learning. And in my fifth grade year, we transitioned to Belleville, Illinois. And at that time, there weren't many Black families in Belleville. And so I experienced a real culture shock when I went to my new school. And what I also found out was I was a quote unquote standout student in my new school. And so that put me in a whole different bracket than my peers that looked like me. And a lot of times I was in classrooms and will be the only student of color, period, in that classroom. And that's pretty much how I navigated fifth grade through 12th grade.
Me, I started off as a student in an elementary school where there were a few sprinkle of African American students, but not that many. Funny that, my story with growing up and being sort of this knucklehead student that got into trouble a little bit was considered to be a bully at one point or another in my elementary schools. Then I've matriculated through the system all the way up until high school in the school district that I was a part of, always having felt underestimated or just not really shown the bright person that I truly could potentially be from my teachers. And so matriculating from the elementary school system and the high school system that I was in, moving into the college realm where I was one of very few African Americans in Mizzou. And so just experiencing again also that culture shock, and how that sort of had an impact on my studies and my self-esteem in terms of what I had the potential to be, which courses I was told that maybe I shouldn't take, some of the courses that I did take that I didn't even get credit for, but was told that I needed to take these courses in order to be ready for others. So experiencing that, moving on to graduate school where I really truly loved learning, in a sense to where there was a lot more freedom, there was a lot more independence, there was a lot of more ways for me to actually show my learning. And so building my confidence there, moving into the teaching profession and working with kids who in, a lot really like me, categorized. And so knowing, the successes that I had with those kids, really with the connection and seeing their potential and really cultivating their genius.
We have similar experience with that culture shock. So one of the coolest things that I had the opportunity to do, I participated in the voluntary desegregation program. We now call it the Interchoice program. And from the first time I went to Parkway Central, so we know St. Louis, yes, Parkway Central, yes. So St. Louis, Parkway Central. And from the first time going to that school district, I was just mesmerized, not even with the education at first, but just the trip on the bus, leaving from home from the city, going out there. I was just like, wow, this is great. This is awesome. And so already early on in my head, I'm like, why can't we have these experiences at home? So as I thought about becoming a teacher, I wanted to make sure that my students were exposed to the same opportunities that I was exposed to, because Parkway actually opened doors for me. And if I was at my home school, I lived in the zone for Sumner, I wouldn't have had some of the same opportunities. So when I think about my journey to becoming a teacher, because just like you, call, at first I didn't want to be a teacher. I was like, who wants to be a teacher? No, no. I actually wanted to be a politician. Go figure. I wanted to be like a mayor or something, an alderwoman or something. And then I was on a flying out to California one day, and I was sitting next to a lawyer, and just from us having that conversation, he was like, I don't know if you want to be a politician. You have a different spirit, so you might want to think about that. So I end up switching my major to teaching.
You all are way too smart for me. Okay. So my experience was, I'm from St. Louis public school system, went to Metro High School. But before then, I went to a middle school, and that was when I had my first opportunity to challenge the system. So I'm actually on the other side, right? So I grew up thinking, why are we being taught this and not that? Why is it that I'm having conversations with my mom and dad about all of these important things that are happening, and that's not anywhere in my curriculum? So middle school, I started pushing the system. I'm asking why to the teachers. I'm asking the administration, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? So like the rebel that I still am, I got some girlfriends together, and we decided we were going to have a protest. Well, the principal said, no, we were not going to have that protest. And so that's when I started to recognize also that sometimes it's not what you say, it's kind of how you say it and what avenues you take to get what you want done, even as a young person. But I did realize that the youth voice is missing a lot. So when I went to high school, I made sure that I kept asking why. I kept pushing. I kept having conversations with my teachers. And because of the way that Metro High School was situated, that was okay. But when I would go home and talk to neighbors, that was not okay. And for young people of color, especially young girls, we're giving so many ideals about what we should be like and how we should respond to things and how we should act. So I decided that I was going to spend the majority of my life really trying to test the system. So you all are phenomenal women to me. I'm that youth in the background that's probably making your life hell, right? I'm probably the one that's coming through and asking, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that?
What I found is so many times as Black leaders and educators, we lose our voice, sometimes trying to keep our jobs. And I know, if you can't tell by my appearance, I'm not your typical principal. I'm a little bit edgy. And so I've always been that, I want to be authentically true to who I am. And so I finally have gotten to a place, and it's part of being a mother, where I can't tell my child to be your real self, your true self, if I'm not doing the same thing. And so begin to become comfortable in who you are, finding your own voice, finding out who you are, and then walking unapologetically in the skin that you are in. That is one, freedom. And then two, when you present yourself authentically who you are, it's kind of like a take it or leave it situation. I am who I am. And if being who I am authentically fits with my organization, that is amazing. But the moment that my authentic self no longer fits with the vision of my organization, that's my cue to make a different decision, because it's either you're going to stop being true to yourself, which is not good for anyone, or you're going to just find that place that's a really good fit. And, as leaders and as influential women, that's something we have to be willing to do.
I don't know if you heard my daughter earlier. I am a young mom of a 9-month-old. And so we are over here. I'm just, kind of raising my hand and amen, manning, because I'm going through that right now. But I will say, more than anything, being a mother is the greatest thing that's probably ever happened to me in my career at this point in my life, because I am looking at it, Melanie, from the lens of a parent. which is quite different, you know, and it's something that when I was a teacher, you know, the parents and everyone else will say, "Do you have any children? You'll understand, baby, when you get some children." Well, I certainly understand that now, you know, and so just thinking about it from a parent lens, I find myself asking just so many questions of women in leadership, just professional women in general. How do you do this, girl? You know, and I had the pleasure of, it was a Dr. Bettina Love. She was just speaking during a Black Males in Education event, and I was one of the people to ask her a question, which was, you know, all things considered, you had to move into a new area. Which type of school would you want your kid to move into? I mean, or be a part of? And so she talked about how no school will ever be perfect, as it is right now with the status quo. And she actually built her own school, you know. But I think that that really struck a chord with me because you know, in St. Louis is so divided, and so that is a, you know, we're trying to figure out where we're going to move, what type of school system do we want our kid to be a part of. But you know, on one end, it's, you want that rigor, you want your kids to experience that rigor, but it's almost like the top performing schools, you kind of have to pause as a Black mother, because are these schools going to love my kid? Are these schools, or do I have to spend a lot of money later on in life for therapy for my kid?
I get to look at it from a different perspective because I am not a mother. I am TT. Okay. But here's the cool thing. Although I'm TT, my brother and my sister-in-law, from when my nephews were little babies, they've allowed me to be actively engaged in their upbringing from the start. So you already know, as the educator, if anything is going on with school, they contact TT. And so when one of my nephews he went to the 4th grade, that's when everything started going downhill. So when we think about the data, when we talk about Black boys and just Black girls, with that 4th grade shift, things start to change. And so my brother would always call me and say that the teacher is calling him, saying that my nephew is not doing what she's telling him to do, that he's getting into scuffles on the playground. And I'm like, no, something ain't right here, because this is not my nephew, because he's a very quiet spirit. So I told my brother and my sister-in-law, I said, let's set up a meeting with a teacher and let the teacher know that TT will be coming along. And so just think. So I'm setting the tone. So the teacher doesn't know that I'm an educator. I'm like, don't say any of that. Just say TT is coming, because I want to know everything that he's supposedly doing, because it's looked like they're trying to set him up. Look, I'm looking, y'all, saying that he's ADD or ADHD. And that ain't finna happen, okay? So we set up the meeting, get to the school, and she's describing some of the situations. Like, she describes one situation that they had reading time, and look, I'm looking at, she gave the students a choice to decide what they wanted to read. Well, you gave a little Black boy a choice. So my nephew's choice was to read a comic book. Well, when we talk about culture, she felt that the choice was to read the book that they were reading in class. And I had to say, no. I said, you said, pick what you want to read. So he picked what he wanted to read. If you wanted him to read the chapter book that you were reading in class, you should have said, Randall, you need to read this book. I said, so since you gave him a choice, he wasn't being defiant. He picked his choice.